She forgot the anniversary. He planned a surprise that broke their marriage. The anniversary. Karen liked order. On the fridge door hung a grid of sticky notes, yellow for bills, green for groceries, pink for meetings, every square inch of life scheduled. And yet this Thursday the calendar had a blank square, the very one where the anniversary should be. She remembered by accident. The barista handed over the receipt and smiled. Foam or hope with that coffee? Today neither, Karen said. She didn't think much of it, but outside in the Denver cold she noticed the date on the receipt. The sky was gray, the lot half empty, a neon sign in the window buzzed like a joke. At home Karen put away the groceries, checked the fridge. Her eyes slid past the pink stickies, call mom, pay rent, and stopped on the blank square. Something dropped inside her. Her phone buzzed. Karen glanced down and saw a notification on her husband's screen. Everyday words, but the phrasing snagged. Deposit paid, now we wait for her reaction. Below it another, same table, everything has to be perfect. Karen frowned, first thought work stuff, but the time stamp was after midnight. Her husband, a pedant and a morning lark, was always out by 10. She scrolled, 2 glasses, dessert at the end, she won't guess. It read like lines from someone else's play, a pin of suspicion, sharp and cold as the February wind, slid under her ribs. He came home that evening, grocery sack in hand, face calm. He set milk on the counter. You're quiet, he said. Karen looked at him, the answer jammed. She only nodded. She couldn't sleep. Beside her he breathed steady, almost performative. Karen stared at the back of his head and thought, maybe it's coincidence. Another voice said, coincidences don't come empty. Morning ritual, coffee in the mug with the cracked handle, green stickies for the fridge check, but her eyes slid past the list. Yesterday's messages stayed in the head. Deposit, 2 glasses, she won't guess, a rhyme for her worry. At work she barely heard people. At lunch, instead of salad, she opened the app store, typed tracker. Dozens lit up, family locators, teen control, corporate monitoring. Karen chose the one that promised full access in invisible mode. That evening she waited. He got in the shower and Karen lifted his phone, heart pounding, fingers shaking. The install screen popped up, for optimal use connect partner device. Access hidden. Karen snorted. Hidden means proper. Lying in the dark that night, she opened the map for the first time. A dot blinked oddly. Husband wasn't moving. The dot said he'd been sitting for 6 hours in the corner coffee shop. Karen bolted up and went to the window. The shop across the street was dark, closed, panic hammered. He's in there with someone. She checked again and saw it. The app had latched onto the downstairs neighbor's tablet, the lady with the yappy bitch on. Karen exhaled, but no laugh came. The mistake had already rooted like proof that nothing here was random. Reports after that were clean. Work, supermarket, gas, too clean. Karen stared at Roots, mined for delays. A receipt from his pocket fed the fear. Scented candles, red box. Over dinner, he glanced at the phone in her hand. Phones charge faster if you don't stare at them. Karen smiled thinly, tucked the screen under the table. That night she zoomed the map to Ant Streets. The pairing error was fixed, the suspicion wasn't, a virus long past any antivirus. He noticed changes not in Roots but in words. Karen started borrowing odd phrases. No worries where she would have said fine, pauses where she used to run. Her laugh went sideways short off to the corner. Most folks would miss it, he didn't. 8 years back his ex left for yoga and came home with a suitcase. He'd missed signs then, new slang, nervous slips. Now any drift itched at the scar. He logged the small stuff. Karen blow-dried longer, set her cup with the left hand though always right. He tried to swat thoughts away, but one evening he saw her in the car on the corner, phone in hand, that strange smile. Deja vu, he thought. She looked up, saw him, hid the phone too fast. Next day he called a buddy and the friend listened, then said, "You want truth or peace? Subscription doesn't cover both." He smirked, wrote down the link the friend sent. The program was simple: install, wait for reports. He stalled. Part of him hoped it would fade. That evening, while Karen showered, he hit connect, heart thudding like a fist inside the ribs. First report boring, home, work, pharmacy, but the boring spoke. Why pharmacy? 10 minutes, who met her outside? He wrote the store number in a notebook like evidence. From then on, he lived on surveillance. Karen in one room with her phone, he in the other with his. Their world shrank to maps and dots. Her exhibits were routes and receipts. His were pauses and intonations. Neither listened to the other anymore. Life turned into a map of white dots. Karen checked morning and night. He checked day and night. Two people in one house, watching each other like strangers in a town where nobody trusts anyone. The dots moved in sync. Her drive from office to home overlapped his run to the store. Both stared at screens and thought the same thing, too perfect to be true. Karen saw delays, 5 minutes at the light, 10 in a lot. To her, those were meetings. He heard her on the phone, new pauses, borrowed talk. To him, those were confessions. He snapped one day, called the restaurant that had been haunting him since those first texts, mumbled a name and said he wanted to check a reservation. The woman on the line said, polite as a script, reservation canceled at your request. He went silent, realized he'd just erased his own surprise, too late. 2 days later, a text came from the bank, deposit declined. Karen saw it first, her screen flashed. She took it as final proof he had a lover. Who else pays deposits for dinner for two? They sat at the kitchen table that evening. The fridge hummed between them. He asked without looking up. Where were you at lunch? Where were you? Karen shot back. The talk ended in a pause longer than any answer. The dots kept moving, sometimes crossed, sometimes didn't. Neither would admit the simple thing. They lived in one house and trusted maps and texts more than their own eyes. The funnel pulled them down. The closer the roots, the smaller the chance they'd meet for real. It happened at the supermarket on an ordinary Saturday. Karen walked out with a bag of produce. A snowplow rumbled past. Wind hit the plastic. Carrots and oranges rolled across the lot. She crouched to gather them. A coworker stopped to help. He said something funny. Karen laughed, short. Her husband sat in the car nearby. His phone pinged. The ring cam he'd tied to her account woke up. The audio was warped. The laughter half-whispered, like they were trading secrets. He snapped a screenshot, proof. That night he waited on the couch. Karen came in, tired, same bag of produce. You're late, he said. I'm always on time, she said, just not your time. The fight cut like a knife on glass. Karen shouted he was paranoid. He threw camera frames at her. Each time he showed a still, Karen laughed, nervous, almost panicked. You really trust those pixels? It sounded less like defense than a plea that already knew it wouldn't land. The house split. He lined the spice rack in alphabetical order: basil, coriander, turmeric. On her side she sorted by color, green with green, red with red. Both systems looked ridiculous, but they kept a little order in the wreck. Thin walls carried the shouts, then silence. A draft took up residence, doors slammed by themselves. Their marriage turned into a stage for the absurd. Camera proofs, spices as border posts, a bag flying across a lot. Small things, big enough to erase the rest. They stepped into the lawyer's office almost together from different doors. Karen held a neat folder of documents. He carried a plastic sack stuffed with receipts and crumpled printouts. Their eyes crossed, then moved on. The lawyer spoke without tone, as if reading a fridge manual. Community property is split 50-50. The house goes on the market. Balances are recorded and distributed. Each party keeps their own vehicle. Karen looked out the window. He checked boxes on a form. It sounded like someone else's life. At one point, the lawyer asked about kitchen items. Karen said firm, all the spices are mine, he said, except nutmeg. Karen started to object, then both laughed short by mistake. The laugh died at once. The room froze again. The lawyer raised an eyebrow and continued, same voice. Custody is not applicable. There are no joint debts. He drew a breath like he might finally say something human. He even started, I wanted, then met her eyes, stopped. Karen waited for the rest. He pressed his lips and nodded to the lawyer. Signatures went down fast. Ink dried like a stamp that seals the exit. At the door they met again. Karen straightened her coat. He held the bag of papers. They paused as if a sentence might appear. It didn't. Each took their own corridor. That evening Karen returned to the empty house. On the kitchen shelf stood the spices, cinnamon with her, nutmeg with him, both now here, wanted by no one. She touched a jar. The laugh from the office flickered back, then thinned out like everything else. The house met her with emptiness, boxes along the walls, dust prints on the floor where furniture used to sit. Karen came for documents and lingered in the kitchen. On the table lay a stack of mail. Between gas and water bills, a thin envelope. She opened it without thinking, a receipt from La Mer, deposit for dinner for two. The date matched their anniversary. Karen read the line a few times as if letters could shift. She dialed the number at the bottom. A bright voice answered. La Mer, how may I help? There's a deposit, Karen said. Were you expecting it? Of course, we were waiting that night, but the reservation was never confirmed. Karen hung up. The room felt even emptier. The fridge grid of stickies was still there, most torn off. One yellow square remained, blank, edges browned. She ran a finger along the tacky surface. The note held firm, like it was waiting to be filled. There was nothing left to write. Karen sat down. The only sound was a faint street hum, mocking. Life kept going out there, beyond the house. She pictured the table at the restaurant, candles, wine, dessert, and empty chairs across. It had all happened already, without them. He, somewhere, was likely holding his own evidence, a photo or a receipt meant to explain too much, but it explained one thing only. They both lost a game with no written rules. Karen stood, slid the receipt into a folder, not as proof. As a note, trust costs more than checks. She stepped out, pulled the door. The lock clicked too loud, like a period. She looked once more, the table, the envelope, the bare walls, a set for a party that never happened. Only one sentence rang clear in her head. The party did happen, just without guests.